No, the man yelled at the others in the room. He had risen from his seat to tower over the others in the room. His eyes had changed from their normal sky blue to a stormy gray. He glared at each of the others in turn, making the other three men shiver in fear. They had never seen him angry. Before, he was simply a young man who happened to strategize well and fight better. Akakin, Sanyafta, we have no hope without you, a younger man pleaded. He was shorter, but more heavily muscled despite his obvious fear of the man now named Akakin. He had walked over in the hope he could win Akakin over. Don't even try it, Yaibasan. The threatening tone in Akakin's voice couldn't be missed. His hair seemed to have changed from its normal dark brown to a blood red. This more than anything seemed to scare Yaiba more than the small amount of Ki that slipped out. Don't try to persuade him we can plan this without him, the final man spoke whilst moving a set of models from one side of the model on the table to the front of a relatively large town, leaving only one set of soldiers guarding the left side against four sets of soldiers against them. Yaiba was about to protest when he saw the sparkle in the other man's eyes. After they had moved the entire army against three sets of skeletons, he snapped. All right. I give up, Senshu, I'll fight. But I'm warning you, this could be the end of your war. Akakin moved the pieces back to their original positions. I will reinforce the eastern flank, take off a regiment, and give us the catapults. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000Akakin stopped. I'm sorry I had to do that, but... Akakin stopped. I'm sorry I had to do that, but... It's fine. I understand why you had to do it. Yaiba-san was right. I am your only hope, even if you didn't realize why. You are relying on B too much, though it will kill you and Netsuai-chan. Speaking of which, when are you going to propose? Sunshu blushed fiercely. How? Akakin chuckled. I'm not stupid, you two have liked each other since before I came, and this battle could kill you both. Here, he held out his hand. Some earth leapt from the ground to his hand and formed itself into a gold band with a large diamond set into it. Go before it's too late. Thank you, Akakin, for everything. Go, they will be here soon, and I must begin the ritual. 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 different. The wings that normally sprouted from his back were pure white, were now nothing more than skeletal, although, as he had proven earlier, he could still fly. His armor covered his entire body, no longer a clear diamond-like substance, but a blood red. A blue crystal mounted in his armor, normally resembling a calm lake, now held a tsunami. However, most noticeable was the fire that ran along his body, a dark black, thirsting for the blood of any who dared attack him. His sword, normally unembellished, now had a dark sheen to it, and seemed to drink in the warmth in the air. He was no longer Akakin, he was Shikio Tenchi. They charged. Archer's first volley. The air was suddenly aflame with burning arrows as the first line of the wolves fell. Archers and catapults fire at will at the back of the army, shield wall up pikes into position. Shikio Tenchi cried as he fell back to the center of the regiment. The front line are starting to break. Reinforce them, came the voice of Akakin within Shikio Tenchi's head. With a slight grunt, Shikio Tenchi ran to the front, his sword bursting into cold fire as he attacked with vicious that even the soldiers he fought for stayed clear. Not that he minded, it was more fun when nothing got his way. 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 Shikio Tenchi spun round and growled, Where? His eyes now smoldered with a burning hatred rather than the fun. Terrified by the sudden anger in his commander's voice, the messenger could only point and stutter. Shikio Tenshi looked out at the black spire at which the messenger had pointed at. Tell the captain we fight till they break, then loosen up on the catapults and shoot them while they're routing. With that said, he took off for the black spire. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 You have come too late. A cock in the girl is ours for all that boasting about your incredible battle powers. A nasty voice boasted from the corner. Shikio Tenshi's fist was suddenly in his face. As he finished his boast, his eyes widened as the force of the punch drove him through the blackened iron of the wall. Shikio Tenshi ran up the rest of the spiral stairs. As a feral snarl grew on his lips, they would pay for the injustice to his other half. As he entered the room at the top of the stairs, he saw a tall man with a curved knife held above Netsuai body. "No!" yelled Shikio Tenshi. Diamond armor began to grow on her skin, even as the dagger fell. Just before the dagger pierced her skin, time stopped. "It is time," a deep voice within the back of Shikio Tenshi's mind declared. Despite its demonic tones, Shikio Tenshi could hear regret in his voice. He struggled in vain against this monster's invisible hold. His body was torn apart and dragged out of the world and into the ether between worlds. The last thing he saw of that world was her lack of an engagement ring as the dagger plunged into her heart. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 Keep him safe. Those were Minato's last words as he gave his son to the newly reinstated Sandaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. With Naruto safely in the crib, Minato had prepared the Sandaime, watched as in a great flash of light, Minato summoned the Shinigami to bind the Kyuubi into his son. Unknown to the Sandaime, his summoning of the Shinigami had sent a signal into the ether. Point 00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 Oh, stop sulking already. A voice rumbled in the fog of the ether. Here Akakin could loosely make out the form of the owner of the voice. It was tall and vaguely humanoid with the exception of spiky appendages protruding from his shoulders and knees. How would you know? You never had anyone you consider a friend. Only playthings that amused you before you killed them. Came the sharp reply. However, his tears took the edge of his words. Yes, friends, people you have fun with and whose company you enjoy. If anything, I had more friends than you, and I never put a wall of earth between us. The figure replied, his head tilted to one side, as if confused as to why his friends were different to Akakin's friends. Anyway, this is beside the point. You have had to leave thousands of worlds behind, all of them equally painful. Why does this one bother you so much? The only good I can see of it is that you have successfully proven that you can actually cry when you're nothing more than a spirit. Akakin wiped the tears from his eyes and said, "The difference is she died never knowing how he felt about her, but I suppose you wouldn't understand that. Still, I suppose you're right. What's done is done, and if I dwell on it, you will simply enjoy it all the more." He sighed, and for the first time in his 100 years of existence, looked tired. "Oh, I don't enjoy it." His voice took on an almost primal glee, and Akakin could practically see him grinning. "I live for it. Anyway, as delightfully tasty as your self-piety is, I came to tell you someone managed to summon one of the primordial beings." Akakin was visibly shaken. What? That's not possible. If it were one of the gods, or at least Lord Death would know. He paused for a thought. "And you would be Dad, and I would have been dead over a century ago. Where's the point in that?" "Maybe, but I would have died with my wife and seen my child born." He smiled at the memory of his wife. "Anyway, let's go there. It's not like there's anywhere better, and maybe I can kill him for good." Akakin smiled at the thought of his freedom. "Agreed. If we go straight to the location, there's less chance that the technique will be lost." And if I can get out, he will never be able to seal me before I can get away. 0 Why me? Why must this always happen to me? Naruto thought as he ran down the streets of Konoha. Since being thrown out of the orphanage 2 years ago, this had become a regular occurrence, and Naruto had quickly learned the best escape routes from the mob. The mob was larger than usual. This had happened last year, as well actually now that he thought about it. It had been exactly 1 year ago. As he was finishing the thought, he felt a bottle narrowly miss his left cheek. At least it wasn't one of those weird knifey things, was Naruto's only reaction to it. He had learned years ago that if he recoiled, the mob would get closer and through more things, eventually leading up to a thorough beating when the mob finally caught up to him. Finally, he thought as he turned left sharply, narrowly, missing a fragment of glass, which had smashed on the corner next to him. He had managed to figure this one out just a few weeks ago. The third slab from the right was supported on the other side enough that it could support his weight. If he ran round the corner fast enough, he could jump at the wall with enough height to throw himself over the fence. Now I've just got to find somewhere to hide. After the jump, Naruto had pressed his back against the fence. He could hear the whisperings of the crowd. He can't have gone over. Not even he would be that stupid. Shouldn't we check? In their house? Are you mad? They'll kill him, cold as their eyes, that lot. Silently, Naruto began creeping round the fence, deciding that if the mob were more afraid of these people than they wanted to kill him, he probably shouldn't be here. MHPH. Naruto broke out into sprint after hearing this. Afraid sounds meant people meant pain. He broke into a clearing just before a gate. The sounds were coming closer. He hid in the nearby tree. 0 Ready. The figure was starting to recede into the fog of the ether. As I ever will be. Finally, I can get rid of him. As soon as the words were out of my mouth, a huge tear in the ether formed a black fire along its edges, but instead of destroying the space around the rip, it was slowly working into the rip. A Kakin stepped through it. 0 In a burst of fire, a man appeared in front of the gate from where Naruto was hiding. He could see he was wearing a black mesh shirt with long sleeves with a pair of black ninja-style shorts. His hair was a dark brown and tied back in a ponytail. His eyes were a sky blue, but held such knowledge and pain that after seeing them, Naruto could no longer believe he was merely the 15 years he looked. He had begun to look towards Naruto's location when a large man, looking about 35, rushed into the clearing, carrying a large sack on his shoulder. He swore, leapt to one side, and swiftly placed the sack on the floor. "You might as well just stand there, boy," he directed his voice at the man who had just stepped out of the flames. "It'll be quicker that way," he said with a confident grin. 0 Akakin stood there, bemused for a moment, then began to laugh. "Ha ha ha, you think you can take me? Oh, this is too perfect. I just watched one of my friends die, then a mere kidnapper turns up to challenge me. Damn it, that kid had better take the hint and get that girl out the bag. A mere kidnapper? I am the great and mighty Shirai. Lightning strike? Give me a break. A slug could run faster than you, even carrying the girl, but since I could use a punch bag," he hit his chest with his fist. "Then give it your best shot." A mocking smirk appeared on his lips. With a growl, Shirai flashed through a set of hand seals. Lightning release. Lightning beast. A wolf about the height of a man's waist appeared and, guided by lighting connected to Shirai's hand, ran at Akakin. Akakin said in a bored tone, "You call that a lightning beast? Here, let me show you how it's done." He held out his hand, and as the wolf jumped, the lightning connecting it to Shirai disappeared. The wolf stopped, turned, and with a mocking grin grew and transformed into a huge dragon, which playfully snapped at him. But like I said, I'm in desperate need of a punch bag. 0. On hearing the man's need of a punch bag, Naruto quickly glanced round, worried he meant him. No, he was safe. Wait a minute, why did he look at me each time he mentioned the... He jumped quickly to the right and hit again, just in time to see the cloud, Nin, fly through the tree, barely conscious. Should I best grab that sack before he decides to use me? Naruto ran for the sack. He's going for the girl. I can't let him have her. The wall was damaged in the last attack. A flash step might give me enough time to take her eyes, then Beshi can get them back to Kumo. But first, he flashed through some hand seals. Lightning release. 5 bullets. From his hand, 5 flashes of lightning appeared and instantly shot towards Naruto's back. That hurt. The man was standing at his back. What the? I didn't hear him move. I'm slipping. I gotta practice. The villagers will actually hit me next time. Naruto finally reached the sack when... What is the meaning of this? Hayashi roared, the veins around his eyes bulging in an active Byakugan. Why is my daughter in that sack by the boy? And why is the ambassador barely conscious against my wall? His stance dropped to a low Jukin stance. I'll show you the girl's father. The meaning of this should be obvious as to why I'm here. That could take a while to answer. Suffice to stay. I turn up by the gate to see this guy. Shirai groans with recognition of Hayashi's voice and redoubles his attempt to escape. Akakin looks at him before knocking him out. Running towards your gate with a sack with a young girl in it, what am I supposed to think? Although you are incredibly inattentive, did you even notice the 20-foot dragon of lightning? And the weakling here wasn't exactly quiet. Well, he didn't call me a demon, maybe he won't kill me. Naruto carefully started edging towards the gate. The girl in the sack was just beginning to wake up. She would be fine. After all, Shirai had been gentler to her than the villagers were to him. What about the boy? Hayashi asked. His tone had quietened down. After all, there was no reason not to believe him, and Kumo had been after the Byakugan for a long time. Damn it, let's see. What do I know about this clan? Actually, I don't think this clan have ever tried to beat me. They never helped, but they don't join in. The girl began to stir next to him. Don't go, she whispered sleepily. Both men looked towards him, a slight smile on Akakin's face. I assumed he was one of yours. This complex can't just be for you. So what do I have to do now? I assume there's someone I should take this idiot to. Yes, and take the boy too. He isn't one of mine, no matter what my daughter may wish. All right, I will take him with me, too. Who am I taking him to again? Akakin asked, confused. That would be the Hokage. But haven't you seen him already for your paperwork? Paperwork? He asked, his pupils dilating in fear. Hayashi chuckled. For the Hokage, not you. It'll take you in the morning. You can stay here for the night. But what shall we do with him? He jerked his head towards Shirai. No, we will get this sorted out now. But first, he turned to Shirai. Elemental binding. Spirit cage. His right hand flashed white before the glow enveloped Shirai. He froze, not even breathing, as if time itself had stopped affecting him. What? Now 5 elements. Fire. A ball of fire appeared in front of them. Water. A small sphere which seemed to have waves bound inside it appeared behind, and to the left of them air across from the ball of fire. And above the water, a small twister formed. Earth. A large diamond appeared opposite the twister, forming a box spirit. A similar white light to what had appeared earlier and glowed off to their left, forming a 5-pointed star, but now a circle had appeared around them all. From these elements, everything was made, including time. With this setup, I can use all the power of my gods. He paused, a look of concentration on his face. The scene outside the pentagram suddenly changed from night to day. Instead of the moon at its peak, it was just passed on. How? Hayashi asked in bewilderment. Magic, Akakin replied with an amused smile. Now let's go to this. Who was it? Hokage. 0. Ambassador, what did you do to him? Sarutobi demanded. Hayashi, I would expect you at least to know better than to imprison the ambassador. Began Hayashi. I'll answer that, Hokage-san. Hayashi looked at him in shock. Sama, the Hokage rules the village. Hayashi whispered, hoping that it had simply been a mistake. He did not want to fight a man who had so easily dealt with the ambassador. Akakin turned to him. Senai ruled several countries. Hayashi, a look of disbelief crossed his face. I had known he was powerful, but no, he must be exaggerating. Now, if I may continue. He paused. The Hokage nodded for him to continue. The first priority was to get the ambassador. The longer he stayed like that, the more chance someone would see, and he was not in the mood for fixing an international incident. Thank you. When I arrived at Konoha last night, I heard a lot of noise coming from the Hyuga compound upon arrival. I found this man carrying a sack with a small child in, and another small child hiding rather well in the bush nearby. Since he flicked his head at Shirai, was obviously more capable of fighting, I stepped in to stop any such attempt. I stepped in and managed to make him drop the girl. Whilst trying to get the boy to move her during the fight, he attempted to kill the boy before he made it to her, at which point Hayashi turned up, so I incapacitated Shirai and came here. Hayashi, is this true? The Hokage asked, unsure whether to believe him or not. Yes, Hokage-sama. If I tell him we move forwards in time, he will think I'm crazy and the story's true as far as it goes. He motioned for Naruto to come forwards. The boy might be able to say more. He was near my daughter, and by his admission, the boy was there the whole time. True. Well, Naruto, is what he said true? His gaze became kinder as he looked at Naruto. No, Gigi, he didn't come when he heard the noise. He appeared in a huge ball of fire by the gate. Just before that man got out of the compound, Naruto's eyes glazed over. Can you teach me that, Gigi? Maybe later, Naruto. Why were you in the compound? I told you to stay out of people's gardens. So he is on par with a Kyumo Jounin and knows what I can only guess to be a Kasai Shunshin. He is dangerous. I hope this doesn't end up in a fight. Naruto's voice became quieter. They were chasing me again, and I missed the alley I wanted, so I had to go over the fence. He was almost in tears. They call me a demon again, Gigi, and they weren't drunk this time. I said, Naruto, I'll sort them out. The Hokage said, damn it, I can't tell him that people see things when they're drunk this time. They call him a demon? Akakin thought. This is where one of the primordials was summoned. He could have sealed the demon in the boy. Like I am in you, came the resounding voice of the monster sealed within him. Why was he not at home at that time of night? Akakin asked. His parents died in the Kyuubi attack, but he should have been at the orphanage, the Hokage replied absently. Kyuubi was a demon whose power was on a par with me, although he could be killed. A human life obviously wasn't enough for the Shinigami to find it worth killing him for. So he is our best guess to finding how to kill you? In that case, I will adopt him. You don't need to go that far. Just study him. The elemental eyes should be strong enough here. Still, you stopped me raising my son, so I will raise him instead. Before giving Akoba the chance to reply, he declared, Hokage-san, I will adopt the boy. It will protect him, and I have always wanted a son. You can't be serious. You're barely more than 10 years older than him, Hayashi exclaimed. Appearances can be deceiving. I do not age. So how about it, Hokage-san? You can't deny he would be better off with me than with the orphanage. His parents wished. His parents are dead and would not have wanted him chased by mobs. The circumstances have changed, Akakin cut in. Very well, where is your house? I will have his belongings sent there, the Hokage said as he resigned himself to an evening of paperwork. You had best come and see it. I will fetch his things later. The less people who know where the house is, the less likely he will be attacked there. After leaving instructions for Shirai to be taken to a Biki for interrogation, and that he should not be harmed more than absolutely necessary, the Sandaime Hokage left with a squad of ANBU trailing behind under a Genjutsu. $0.0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000. Here seems good. A cock and stated once the had reached a large clearing about 3 miles east of the village, there was a small stream running a few meters back from the tree line. Konoha could be seen from some of the taller trees. Where? There is no house here. I cannot in good conscience allow Naruto to live with just the trees as cover, the Sandaime Hokage asked. Patience, Sarutobi-san, there will be. He paused and began to concentrate 5 elements. Fire. A ball of fire appeared in front of them. Despite fighting in the war, Sandaime Hokage jumped at the sudden appearance of the fire. Don't worry about it, Hokage-sama. I have seen this before, and if I'm honest, he wouldn't have needed to bring us out to here to kill us. Even here the ANBU could reach us first. Hayashi assured him as Akakin ran through the elements. Spirit. The ball of white light appeared off to their left, and a circle of light surrounded the 5 points. You want some of my power for this? Akuba asked. Akakin considered it for a moment. No, it will be a good test of my power, he replied. What? Kid, if you can pull that, you'll have about half as much raw power as I did. Quit bugging me, Akuba. I'm concentrating. Akakin had since changed the way he was standing. His legs were bent with one arm pointing straight down to the ground, but the wrist bent parallel. His other hand was clawed over his heart. Slowly, a house began to form in the middle of the clearing. It was circular like the Hokage building, but with 5 points extending up instead of 4. It was lower than the trees, but took up about a quarter of the clearing. I thought I had that much earlier. Akakin asked Akuba, thankful that in his head at least he did not have to pant before the Dark God. That time, I was referring to my power now. The level you are at now, you have half as much raw power as me before you split my soul. Akuba told him, his voice now holding a small amount of awe as well as respect. What the? Sarutobi began, his pipe dropping to the floor. You asked to see the house, Akakin replied, panting. You can go check it. If you want 0.000000000. Well, Naruto, what do you think? Akakin asked. They were in the kitchen. There was a small table in the middle made of type of granite, and the chairs were made of a similar material. Naruto was sitting on one of the chairs, whilst Akakin was finishing washing the pans. It's awesome. It's just like the Hokage building, Naruto yelled excitedly. Glad you like it, but I was asking about the food, Akakin replied, pointing to the plate in front of Naruto. Sorry, I don't know what you normally eat here, but I don't know what else to make really. It's delicious. Not ramen, but good anyway, came the reply after Naruto had taken a bite. He flashed one of his foxy grins. His guardian sighed. All right, Naruto, you can drop the mask. I won't hurt you. Oh, what do you mean? His grin fading slightly. I mean, I can see right through it, so, with the Sarutobi-san, if he could look past his feelings for you. He turned round to look Naruto in the eye. You don't survive on the street as long as you did by being this stupid. My guess would be the noticeable you made yourself, the less people worried about you. That stops now. Naruto's eyes changed. Instead of their exuberant glow, they became slightly colder. The eyes of a man who has learned to live by himself. Very well, you took me off the streets. You deserve to know the real me. Akakin smiled. Excellent. Now, tell me, how much of what you said have you meant, and how much was the mask? 0.0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 old man again instead of the Sandaime Hokage god among shinobi. He thought back to what he had just seen. I hope Naruto understands quite how powerful his new guardian is. If he can learn that, maybe I can finally step down. 0 I wonder if Naruto can learn that kind of power. It might be worth checking the betrothal contract. It was for Namake's Naruto, so we'll have to wait until he announces his real name. Hayashi thought, remembering his daughter's reaction to Naruto earlier. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000Naruto to nod before continuing. Right, well, in that case, we had best start soon. But first you need to choose, do you want to learn to fight Sarutobi's way or mine? Yours, Naruto replied after a moment's hesitation. Gigi was obviously shocked by it, meaning you can probably do more with it than he can. Akakin smiled, good training starts tomorrow. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 meters away. Naruto carefully raised a kunai. In a single fluid motion, he threw it. It embedded itself in the animal's neck just below the skull, killing it instantly. A small smile graced his lips. It had been 3 years since his Ota-san had insisted that he learn at least the basics of a ninja way. Objecting to that probably wasn't smart. He winced at the memory. Flashback. No, Naruto yelled, I want to learn your way of fighting. You don't get a choice, and relying on one style of fighting is dangerous. Akakin replied, if you keep fighting me with this, you can learn it by yourself. Fine, I will. Flashback ends. He'd been locked out and starved for a week before he managed to kill a rabbit. Even then, he needed Akakin to show him how to cook it. He never objected to Akakin's methods again. He finished preparing the deer, since Akakin had proven he had no objection to letting him starve, to prove a point Naruto had taken to keeping some dried meat with him at all times. Naruto, Akakin's voice snapped him out of his reverie. Hi, Ota-san. Naruto yelled back. It always amazed Naruto how Akakin could use the wind to call him from the house, wherever he was. 00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 stated they were on top of the house. The 5 points jutted up from the building. Naruto was sure they had gotten bigger since he had first seen them. All right, you remember what I told you. The energy I use comes from the gods. Depending on which element is your dominant element, you have more power over that particular element. For example, my dominant element is wind. Even now that I can control all the elements, wind comes more easily. At that moment, a small gale picked up, swirling the leaves at his feet. Now, I want you to concentrate on what you can feel in your heart. He waited for Naruto to close his eyes before calling on his own power to call forth the pentagram he had laid on top of the building, but instead of the normal elements at each of the points, they ended on the peaks on the building. I can feel something, it's like a warmth, but different, Naruto mused aloud, his eyes still closed. That's good. Now I want you to concentrate on forcing that energy out and onto the floor. He can feel it this soon. It takes most people nearly a month to find it, let alone force it out. Slightly surprised, Akakin noticed that the peaks were slowly changing color and other elements were appearing in between them. Akuba, this isn't. Yes, it is, but I never expected to see this. Akuba's voice rumbled through his mind. How is that even possible? You should have an affinity for the major elements, not the fusions. I suspect it will be because of the QB. He had an affinity for all the elements as well. You may as well stop the test. You won't get a reading till you stop QB trying to add its strength. All right, Naruto, stop, Akakin called. Why? It felt powerful. Naruto shuddered, only now realizing how addictive power could be. I was hoping to keep this from you for a while yet, but I guess since it's starting to interfere with your training, you should know. Meet me in the living room. 00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 Akakin thought Naruto's curse was so tied up in other stories it was hard to know where to start that, and he didn't want to scare the boy into thinking he actually was the QB. Start with me that will stop him thinking of himself as a demon. Seeing Naruto had come in and made himself comfortable on a large chair next to the small coffee table, he sat opposite him. What is this about? I did exactly what he said. Didn't I? Naruto thought glad. He remembered to pick up some dried meat earlier. Naruto, what do you know about souls? Akakin finally asked. Surprised by the question, Naruto thought for a moment. They're what make the difference between a living being and an inanimate one. Your world is the only place where souls are completely good, but some demons here are completely evil. That's about it, I think. Naruto replied, trying to think what he missed. True, mostly. Even here, most demons are not completely evil. However, what you did not mention is that souls can be used to bind other beings within them, and providing the souls are sufficiently different, they remain separate, one being bound by the other. Like an island in a river, any animals on that island cannot escape without outside help. Akakin looked at Naruto to see how he was taking this. So, this is what happened with the Dark God. You split its soul and trapped it in people. Naruto said, feeling sorry for whoever had the Dark God trapped within them. Not quite. The Dark God was too powerful for even the fragments to be sealed in people, so we sealed them in things without a soul and their opposite element, so we sealed water in the sun, for example. Except, he sighed, spirit was stolen and refined into a weapon. This fragment of him was sealed inside me to stop it being unleashed rather than destroying worlds. It was focused in me. Its sole purpose in life now is to torture me for all eternity, not just physically, but emotionally too. He indicated the photo next to Naruto. He picked it up. She was your wife, wasn't she? Naruto asked, feeling sorry for his Otis-san. Hi. Baikatoria and I were married 3 months before I left for the battle with the Dark God. We were in the middle of a war, Naruto. He said, chuckling at Naruto's expression. Naruto knew he had only been 15 before he was cursed. We were considered adults after our first kill. Part of the torture is our separation. But back to the subject at hand, you also have a demon within you. What? But no demons have attack. Oh, he paled at the thought, you mean? Yes, but remember what I said, Naruto, you are not the QB, Akakin reminded him. No. Naruto woke with a gasp, sitting bolt upright. Just a dream, that's all a dream. He thought, looking around at his room. He was in a large single bed, a small cabinet beside him, and a sheath with a kunai hidden in the wood's decoration. Flashback. A young woman was chained to a post in the middle of a large ceiling circle. She was screaming to the men outside the circle, chanting despite her tears. Let me go, I never did anything, she yelled. The largest of the men stopped chanting. It is not about what you have done, but what you will do. You will stop the killings. A large, red sphere of energy appeared in the circle. Malevolence poured off it. It seemed to be nothing but hatred. It rammed itself against the edge of the circle, causing a flash of blue light to appear, stopping it from leaving. It seemed to turn. A vertical slit opened down its center, too dark and malevolent for any word to describe. She could practically see its grin. And no, she stuttered, trying to hide behind herself. The sphere flew straight at her and into her chest. She sagged. The men outside the circle looked at each other. Whispers of, is it done? And are we sent? Went round. Then the convulsions began. The men all felt a sudden drain on their chakra. Fortunately, or them, it stopped before any of them collapsed. It's done, she conquered it. The leader yelled. A cheer broke out from the crowd. One of the men near the edge of the circle collapsed, across the edge of the circle. The women's head jerked up, and they saw her eyes. They were blood red, with a single slit through each of them. Team. Her cheeks elongated whilst her ears receded, and she grew large, pointed ears on the top of her head. In a matter of seconds, she had gone from a relatively small young woman to a fox 3 or 4 times larger than any of their buildings, and angry didn't even begin to cover what it felt. Those that had not been instantly crushed by the transformation stared in shock as its 9 tails decimated their village in a matter of seconds. Flashback ends. At that point, Naruto saw Akakin waiting by the door. You okay, kid? He asked. Naruto nodded, not quite trusting his voice yet. Don't lie, Naruto. I can see you're shaking from here. He came in and sat on the end of Naruto's bed. What is it? Just a dream. Really? Naruto finally managed. Although they've never been quite this vivid, it was almost a memory. I think, Naruto, there's more to it than that. Akuba, could the QB do this? Akakin asked, easily after tapping into what I can only assume was its power over the elements and going almost straight to sleep. The seal's power will be weakened, Akuba replied. Akakin sighed, all right, Naruto, I think this is the QB's doing. What? But I thought the seal kept me safe. So did I, but since it doesn't, best get it sorted out now. How? Naruto never had time to finish that sentence before Akakin's hand turned white and he thrust it through his skull. 0 Wah, where am I? Naruto asked, looking around. He was in what appeared to be sewer, but he was unclear as to how he was standing on top of the water. The walls were a ochre, not unlike the color of Fox's fur. In the middle of a large opening in front of him, he could see a row of large gold bars which looked like the front of a jail cell. We are in your mind, Naruto, Akakin said, appearing behind him. Specifically, this is where you keep the QB imprisoned. Huh? I thought that was in my soul, Naruto asked. For this purpose, they are one and the same. Came another voice appearing behind him. He looked almost exactly like Akakin, however, instead of Akakin's normal smile, his face was cold and showed no emotion. Shikio Tenchi? I should have guessed you'd be here. Akakin said, surprised at his appearance. Naruto, this is Shikio Tenchi. He's a little bit like a twin. What? I've never seen him before, Naruto said. And hopefully never will. He only really exist in my head. Or his head. We're not sure which, but basically instead of dealing with physical pain and emotional pain from the war, the original split them apart. The side that feels emotional pain is me, because I have emotions, but I don't feel physical pain. I, on the other hand, have no emotions and can make decisions based purely on logic. However, I feel physical pain, Shikio Tenchi said. To sum it all up, they're both insane, a third voice said, emerging from the shadows. Let me guess, the original? Naruto said sarcastically. Me? They're original. You insult me, the voice rumbled. This is Akuba, the demon I hold. Akakin said. Now Naruto turned to look at him. He was huge with black scaly hide. His face was distorted and large fangs protruded from his jaw. His arms were nearly as large around as Naruto's thighs. He had bony protrusions from his back, as well as jagged spikes from his shoulders. He flashed a grin at Naruto, revealing row upon of sharp, jagged teeth. Shocked by the grin, Naruto jumped back towards the bars before staring in wonder at the cage, barely noticing that he was moving forwards until... Slam! Naruto jumped back as 5 huge claws, at least as tall as him, smashed into the ground in front of him. Ha ha ha, you should see the look on your face, kid. Akuba roared with laughter. I haven't seen a look like that since I did that to Akakin. Your claws weren't that big, Shikio Tenchi stated in a flat monotone, putting an instant downer on the moment. Now that they were all quiet, a soft laughter could be heard. Naruto turned round to look for the source. It didn't sound like a huge demon fox. There in the middle of the floor, rolling with laughter, was a young woman about 15, maybe 16. She had long red hair, which reached her shoulder. Her eyes were a light, almost icy blue. She was wearing a red kimono, which completely covered her chest. The bottom of the kimono had a slit going down both sides, starting about mid-thigh. The kimono itself finished at about her knees. The obi was tied slightly above her waist and tied into a bow. The only other thing they could see she was wearing was a black choker with the kanji for seal written on it. What happened to the fox? Akakin asked, looking around. The girl just giggled at his puzzled expression. You're her, aren't you? Naruto asked, remembering his dream. But you turned into the QB. Yep, she dimpled at him, and now I'm not. What did you prefer my fox form? She looked down, hurt. And no, of course not. Who would have thought it? A demon hurt because someone thought she looked better as a fox, Naruto thought. Ah, thank you. She bounced toward him. A sudden flash of gold. Itai. I forgot that happened. She had landed hard on the floor a few meters away from Naruto. Excuse me. Shikio Tenshi asked, his eyes looking straight at her despite her slightly revealing position on the floor. Kokoro, my name's Kokoro Bura, she said, standing up. What are you doing here? It's his head, she said, pointing to Naruto. We need to train Naruto, and the Kyuubi's chakra keeps us from determining his elemental affinity, Shikio Tenshi stated. Oh, his chakra normally strengthens human chakra. We do not use chakra, just its spirit component. The Kyuubi has an affinity for all of the elements, stopping him accessing his own properly. Oh, how odd. Even when I still had a body of my own, we used chakra. Anyway, if it's such a problem, I'll try and restrain it for now, but Naruto controls it really. Huh, but you're the Kyuubi, came Naruto's puzzled response. Really? 'Cause last I checked, I didn't have a tail. Then again, that was nearly 400 years ago, she mused. Naruto flushed us sorry. I guess I should explain. Take a seat, it could take a while, Kokoro said. Where do we sit, Akaken asked. Ask Naruto, it's his head. Kokoro said. On hearing this, Naruto began experimenting. 5 chairs appeared in the room. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Now what you need to understand first is that the Kyuubi is a freak. It is the only Biju, which is not the incarnation of a natural disaster like Shikaku, is the incarnation of sandstorms. Before mankind, there were only 8 Biju incarnating natural disasters, then we happened. Kyuubi is the incarnation of hatred. She paused, letting this sink in. No wonder he seemed to hate me when we met, Akuba said. No more likely because the Biju are alive and therefore only fit to be tortured or killed. That's in your section of the Dark Book. Akaken replied. Anyway, what you call the Kyuubi, at this point she pointed at Naruto, is just a physical manifestation and only happens because someone like me becomes a Jinchuriki. We make up the physical body, and if our will is strong enough, we can act as their conscience. Like that ever works, I've heard that at the start you can control them. But if you let them control you, even once it's over, I gave in at the start, your dream should tell you why, Naruto-kun. Naruto nodded. The Kyuubi itself is a spiritual entity, which when it doesn't have a physical form, can cause extreme misfortune. That doesn't sound too bad, Naruto said. Don't underestimate misfortune. We have a similar trick we call a marking. The marked person suffers increasing misfortune. The longest anyone ever survived with it was 2 years. He was in a straitjacket in a padded cell with only plastic cups. When time came for him to be fed, the nurse tripped and quaked. The rest of the complex was safe. It was localized to that cell only. She tripped, knocking over the man whilst he bounced. The chair shattered on part of the frame, revealed for about a second. When the man bounced back down, the shard was upright and went straight through his heart. Nasty way to die. Kyuubi could do that, but it was almost instantly for what took you 2 years. That was why they had to seal it away in a person. You can drive something away if it has a body. Now that I am sealed in Naruto, he can use its power at will through me. When he dies, so will I, and Kyuubi will resume its spirit form. Oh, before I forget, Kyuubi hates everything. Its chakra is similar. If you use its energy too much, it starts to kill you. Your body, however, has begun to compensate, using his energy to speed your healing. So your body heals faster than Kyuubi can damage it. That's why I heal faster than normal. I need your permission to affect your body. If I could speed the healing even more. Yeah, go ahead, Naruto said. Thank you. We will leave Naruto stay as long as you wish. But remember, we start training in the morning, Akaken said, fading from Naruto's mind. 00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 All right, Naruto, you primary element seems to be wind with water as your secondary element. He paused to look at a scroll. Kami. The old man don't want much, does he, in two illusions and substitution. With this style, the only way to perform illusions is to manipulate the light through your element. So we can start with a Kaze Shunshin. and use that as your substitution. We can work on taijutsu in the afternoons. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000ɔ Naruto, would you like to introduce yourself? I'd better be nice as Otu-san Naruto, would you like to introduce yourself? I'd better be nice as Otu-san is scary. Flashback. Yumino-san, a word please. Akakin said as Irika was about to leave the Hokage's office. Of course, Akakin-sama. Perhaps he is not so influenced by the Kyuubi brat after all, Irika said thought. Akakin smiled. Thank you. But you should probably know I can read people's thoughts. He's joking is at the end of that thought. Akakin said, his smile becoming more sinister by the minute. OS%*T. Indeed. So here is your only warning. The wind was suddenly strong enough to force him against the wall. Akakin's hands seemed to catch fire. If you harm my son, you will spend the rest of your days in constant torture. That is a promise. With that said, Akakin released the pressure and vanished in the wind. Flashback ends. Hello, my name is Shikio Tenchi Naruto. I like training with Tusan and ramen. I dislike being grounded. I swear those deer are getting smarter. My dream for the future is to master the Kamikin. That said, Naruto looked for a seat. There was only one free, next to a small girl at the back. She wore a large coat, despite the heat, with a flame design on her shoulder. All right, Naruto, there is a seat at the back for you. Irika said. He waited for Naruto to sit down before saying, all right, the first part of the exam will be Kanai and Shuriken throwing. So if you all follow me and line up alphabetically. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000Too easy there, not even moving the target. He thought as he threw all the kunai one after the other, scoring a bullseye, with each followed by the shuriken, which also score bullseyes. I guess this is why Tusen locks me out. Bore are good target practice, if nothing else. The only other person to come close to Naruto's score was Sasuke, whose last shuriken, whilst on target, bounced of one of the kunai he had thrown earlier. Alright, now we will move on to the taijutsu portion. It will be done in a tournament style. The rules are as follows. The fight is over when me or Mizuki-san, call it no nin or Jinjutsu, allowed. The first match will be Kairai-san versus Ungai-san. Begin. As soon as Irika called begin, Ungai charged at Kairai. Naruto stopped paying attention. After that, they both fight like brawlers was Naruto's only thought. He started looking around and saw the girl who he had been told to sit next looking nervous. Hey, you okay? He asked, putting a hand on her shoulder. She jumped. Why, yes, I'm fine. Oh my god, he's touching me. He's actually touching me. Calm down, Hinata, calm down. She thought, remembering the last time they met. Hey, that girl, aren't you from when Tusan turned up? Why, yes, I. Before she could finish, Irika called, stop, winner Kairai-san. The next round will be Shino-san versus Ika-san. No, I'm not touching him. He's covered in creepy bugs, a girl yelled. Irika sighed. All right, Ika-san, no need to insult the Aburame apologized. She did so. Winner by forfeit Shino. The only sign of his annoyance was a low hum from his bugs. Next round, Shikamaru-san versus Sina-san begin. A large boy had entered the ring. He was maybe 6 foot and towered over Shikamaru. What a drag. Why have I always got to fight girls? Shikamaru said. What did call me? He yelled as he charged Shikamaru. Shikamaru had sidestepped the boy and tripped him in a single move, never taking his hands from his pockets, and put his foot on his neck. Winner Shikamaru. Next match, Hinata-san versus Tobari-san begin. You can do it, Hinata-chan. He whispered. She blushed and nodded, looking more confident. I got the easy match. You never hit anybody, Tobari yelled with a laugh. Hinata glared. I will prove I'm not weak. How dare she insult me in front of Naruto-kun? She charged, waiting for him to sidestep. As soon as he did, she turned into a textbook spin with a crescent kick before placing a palm over his heart. An instant kill if she had been using the Juken. Irika's eyes widened. Hinata, had never shown such skill before. Maybe the demon brat wasn't so bad. Winner Hinata-san. Next match, Ino-san versus Sakura-san. Begin. To begin with, the fight seemed interesting, both girls using the academy-style taijutsu, but Ino was trying to stay back out of range. Naruto lost interest. Nice fight, Hinata-chan. I hope I don't have to face you. Naruto said. Hinata just blushed. Naruto laughed. She is kind of cute when she does that. He looked over at the other girls in the class. While Sakura was one of the more popular girls, he couldn't see anything particularly special about her, and she looked like she spent more time worrying about her looks than actually training. Hinata, however, moved like she had been training all her life. God, what am I thinking? If anyone found out I liked Hinata-chan, they'd make her life hell too. San can't be there for us all the time. Winner Sakura-san. Naruto turned his attention away from Hinata to notice that Sakura had managed to land a decent hook on Ino, who was currently on the floor. Next match, Chuji versus Kiba. Begin. Akamaru, you sit this one out, Kiba said to the puppy as he moved into the ring. As he entered, he took a moment to look what he was after. He growled slightly as he realized that Chuji's body weight would prevent him from winding him easily. He charged, looking to off-balance him and take down, but Chuji stayed where he was and took the blow on his chest with barely a grunt. Before trying to hook Kiba, he landed a glancing blow to his shoulder, but even that was enough to force Kiba back a few steps. As Chuji stepped forwards to finish the fight, Kiba leapt forwards with a sweep, tripping him. Kiba then span on his hands and kicked him to the face, or would have if Mizuki hadn't caught his foot inches from Chuji's face. Winner Kiba-san. Next match, Sasuke-san versus Kankyu-san. Sasuke entered the ring. Finally, my turn. Maybe I can take this emo down a peg or two. Then Kankyu's eyes wandered to Sakura. Begin, Irika called. As soon as he called it, Kankyu began to run at Sasuke and swing a punch at him. Sasuke merely sidestepped and punched him in the face. Kankyu fell flat on his back. Winner Sasuke-san. Next match, Naruto-san versus Raku-san. Begin. Be careful, Naruto-kun, Hinata whispered. Why? Naruto smiled back. Once he entered the ring, he took a quick look at his opponent. His first impression was big and probably a heavy hitter, so he walked on and began. You know, there was a story like this once, San told me about. He was walking slowly toward him, looking him straight in the eye. He remembered Akakin saying, distract the enemy, then they go down easily. By the time he was right in front of him, Raka finally asked, so who won, David or Goliath? Me, saying that Naruto floored him with a punch to the face. Interesting, if slightly strange, winner Naruto-san. Now we will move on to the second round. The first match is Shino-san versus Kiba-san. Shino entered the ring as Kiba leapt forwards on all fours, but Naruto lost concentration after it became clear that Shino had very limited skill with taijutsu. That was in nice story in Naruto-kun. Hinata said, Thank you, Hinata-chan. It was from one of the places San visited before he came here. Ironically, David won. I think the giant was a bit of an idiot, though. Winner Kiba-san. Next match, Shikamaru-san versus Hinata-san. Begin. Go for it, Hinata-chan. Troublesome. You're enjoying putting me up against girls, aren't you anyway? I forfeit. I can't beat the Jukin. I was wondering when he would say something like that. Winner Hinata-san. Next match, Naruto-san versus Sakura-san. Begin. Now what you gonna do? That trick won't work twice. I can prove to Sasuke-kun that I am so much better for him than Ino Pig, Sakura thought. Never thought it would, he said as he stood still, tilting his head to one side. So are you gonna fight or just stand there and pose? Arg. She charged at him as he smirked at her. He dodged lightly at her punches. Fight back already. If you insist, he sidestepped her punch, grabbing her hand. Stepping under it, he locked her arm before jumping over her back, flipping her face first into the ground. Winner Naruto-san. Next match, Sasuke-san versus Kairai-san. Nice fight, Naruto-kun. Hinata to Naruto. Thinks it was fun, she's so easy to annoy. He grinned at her, a proper grin, not one of the fake ones she remembered. Naruto-kun, don't be mean. Winner Sasuke-san. Alright, the first match of the semifinals is Kiba-san versus Sasuke-san. Begin. Kiba dropped into a low stance on all fours before crossing in front of him in a square pattern before dropping out and attempting to punch him. Sasuke stepped to the side before punching at his face. Kiba dropped back, throwing an axe kick towards Sasuke's chin. Sasuke caught the kick and attempted to use it to throw Kiba, but he caught Sasuke in a scissor kick to the head. Sasuke went with the momentum before flipping over and axe kicking Kiba's head. Winner Sasuke-san. The final match of the semifinals is Naruto versus Hinata. And no, Hinata yelled hurt before blushing with embarrassment. Hey, it's okay, Hinata. I won't hurt you. Just think of it as a spar, Naruto said encouragingly. But what if I hurt you, Hinata said worried. You won't. But don't worry, it'll be fun. Trust me. He flashed a smile at her, and she felt her resolve crumbling. Who could resist that smile? With my life, she said in her head, getting up. Begin, Irika called. Hinata dropped into her juken stance, as Naruto stepped forwards and threw a light punch to her chin. She dodged to one side and tried to strike to his arm. He spun away with a gentle uppercut as she darted back. This time he came to her a straight punch to the face. No, he was going to spin into a back fist. She dodged away from his punch and tried a quicker strike to his shoulder. Spurred on by her increase in speed, he caught her fingers between his index and middle finger. Gotcha. Not quite, Naruto-kun, she said, too involved in the fight to stutter. She twisted and kicked him in the ribs, surprised. He let go and staggered back. She came again in a flurry of strikes, which he blocked quickly before stepping inside about a punch when she noticed how close he was. Naruto-kun's so close. She promptly fainted. Irika-sensei, what? Naruto yelled as he caught her. Irika just chuckled. That's why she fought so well today. Who would have thought the princess? And, though what he isn't the Kyuubi, that's for sure. It's all right, Naruto-san. Just put her down next to Mizuki-san. Mizuki, the smelling salts are in the first aid kit. Since Hinata-san can't continue, the winner is Naruto-san. The finals will be Naruto versus Sasuke. The finals will be Naruto-san versus Sasuke-san. Begin. Irika called. All right, think. Sasuke, what do you know about his style? Think. Damn it. He hasn't used any style yet, Sasuke thought, studiously ignoring the calls of his fangirls. He moved into the ring, trying to look like he wasn't bothered, whilst furiously trying to think of how to win this fight. Naruto stood in the middle of the ring waiting. I hope Hinata's all right. I didn't think I hit her at all. Concentrate. What do I know? He probably uses the Uchiha style, but judging by his earlier moves, he hasn't mastered it. Naruto leaned back and closed his eyes. Remember the feel of the wind. It will guide you. That's what Tu-san said. Naruto concentrated there, just above my heart. He opened his eyes in time to see that Sasuke, taking advantage of his lack of sight, had charged at him. His charge faltered as he saw Naruto's eyes had changed. They were no longer a deep blue, but paler, more gray, the color of the sky in the middle of a hurricane. Naruto spun, in taking advantage of Sasuke's surprise, jumping up and blocking his punch. With his leg, he turned midair to kick him in the head. Sasuke recovered, quickly ducking under the kick in an attempt to sweep Naruto as he landed. Instead, Naruto seemed to hover in the air a moment longer than Sasuke expected. How did he do that? In his surprise, Sasuke almost missed the kick Naruto had aimed at his head. Recoiling and sliding back, he entered what Otis-san had always called the chonai stance. Both legs bent, arms in front. This is the first time anyone has actually made me use this. In response to Sasuke's stance, Naruto slipped back, his legs bent, but his arms held horizontal to his body, one slightly more forward than the other. His wrists bent inwards and his fingers bent like claws. If you're too scared to come to me, Sasuke-san, then. Naruto had leapt forward, spreading both arms wide like wings before spinning into an axe kick. I will come to you. Sasuke, having stepped to the side, now glided in with a punch to Naruto's head. Naruto merely bent backwards, his leg coming up and kicking Sasuke in the chin with enough force to lift Sasuke off the ground. He then spun on his hands, performing a helicopter kick to Sasuke's midsection. Winner, Naruto-san, declared Irika, seeing Sasuke fly out of the ring. You have 20 minutes for lunch before we start the ninjutsu section. That was amazing in a Naruto-kun, Hinata told Naruto after he got out of the ring. Thank you, Hinata-chan, he said with a smile. Are you feeling okay? I didn't mean to hit you hard. He still cares, she blushed. I am fine. She finally managed to stutter. Naruto sighed, relieved that he hadn't hurt her. Good. Hey, if you're not too busy tonight, do you want to come have dinner at mine? He asked. I'd love to be, but Oda-sama might want me at the CC complex. Oh, his heart sank. BBUT, if Yellow lets me, WW would love to. Her heart soared as she saw him cheer up. That'd be great, Hinata-chan. I'll see you here at 6, all right? I probably should have checked with San. Naruto thought, beaming, he won't mind. Hey you, Naruto-san, wasn't it? Came a voice from behind him. How did you do that? Naruto turned. Do what, Sasuke-san? Despite his outwardly cool expression, he was seething inside. Damn it, can't you see I was in the middle of something? You know what I mean? You stopped in the air. Hovered. The term is hovered, Naruto replied. Oh. Sasuke was cut short by the bell ringing the start of the ninjutsu test. Sasuke growled. 0 Hokage-san, I need to speak with you. A Kakin called through the door. He heard whispers of, didn't you tell her we were not to be interrupted? He rolled his eyes. Did they really think that he was stupid enough to burst into an important meeting? And since the door obviously didn't have a silencing seal on it, he walked in. You cannot come in here. This is a private meeting. The advisor to the Hokage's right yelled. Well, it can't be that private since there wasn't a silencing seal on the door. Then he heard the thought, but I did. Whoops, sorry. You really need a better seal. Akakin said. Well, there's nothing we can do about it now. Can this wait? Akakin-san. Sarutobi looked down at the map before leaning back and taking his pipe out of his mouth. He sighed. No, I guess not. You wouldn't come if you could avoid it. What is it? Originally, it was about the exam, but now, well, you're underestimating the problem already. If Mizu want a war, the first thing they will do is ally with IWA, who will join because they hate you. Oda will want to join because as a small village near IWA, it would be threatened. If Kumo then heard they would either join or tag along behind for the Byakugan, with such a large army villages like Aim and Suna will try to join to stop them turning on them. The only village that will help you would be Kusa because the army will have to go through Fire Country to reach them. You're dead, basically. Akakin told them. The council members immediately looked up, their mouths open in large OS. Then they looked at each other. Help! The member on Sarutobi's right whimpered. Akakin chuckled. Well, I guess it would ruin Naruto's day to be invaded. I'll help. What do the public think of the Mizukichi? The current one? He is known to be a pervert, but other than that, they aren't against him. Isn't that enough? Akakin said mildly, raising his eyebrows. Sarutobi ignored him. Succession-wise, it's unsure. He hasn't designated anyone, and the country is split as to who should succeed him. All right. He paused a moment to think. We should assassinate the Mizukichi. He raised his hand to stop the outburst of the advisors. I can pin the blame on IWA. That way, both IWA and Mizu will eliminate each other as a threat, as well as take away the catalyst for the war. Without those two, Oda won't feel threatened, and Kumo won't start a war it can't win. All right, we will send a team, Sarutobi began. No, I will do it alone. I can't be traced back to Konoha yet, and I can pull off the assassination. All I need is something to cause a chakra flare. Go to the ANBU armory. Give them this. He wrote on a slip of paper. Ask for IWA. When you break a capsule, it releases a chakra flare. An old student of mine managed to procure a dead ANBU chakra signal for each of the other countries for just such an occasion. I'll tell him we will need a new set. Excellent. I'll go tomorrow. The assassination will be about 4 days after, so I'll be back a week after that. I had originally come about the Jinin exam, so if you will excuse us, he paused to allow them to leave before turning back to Saratobi. 0 what's wrong in Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, seeing Naruto shiver. He scratched the back of his head. Yeah, well, my ninjutsu isn't great. He grimaced. It was true Kawarimi he could emulate Hinge. He could manage most of the time. He had figured out how to stop his sin escaping as well. But his bunshin? His musing was interrupted when Irika called Shikio Tenchi Naruto. He cursed and entered the room. All right, Naruto-san. Perform a Kawarimi with the desk. Naruto, concentrated before the wind, picked up around both him and the desk. Neither Naruto nor the desk could be seen, but when the wind died down a few seconds later, they had switched places. Very good, Naruto-san. Now Hinge, transform into me. This time, rather than the wind picking up Naruto, seemed to shimmer before taking on the appearance of Irika. Like this, Irika-sensei? His voice even matched that of Irika's. Exactly, Naruto-san. Final test, then. You may have your Itai. Make 3 clones. Mizuki started to worry at this point. If the demon passes with full marks, I will have to take the scroll myself. I wonder what Mizuki-sensei is so worried about. Naruto thought. He took on a look of concentration. The air shimmered in 3 places and Naruto's form emerged. Unfortunately, they could be seen through. I'm sorry, Naruto-san. That isn't good enough to pass. Irika said. He shocked himself in finding that he was actually sorry. And to think I was ready to condemn him just this morning. 0 Naruto was sitting on the top of the Hokage building. It had started to get dark about an hour ago. He was still reminiscing about the test when Mizuki appeared behind him. You know, Naruto-san, Irika didn't do that to be mean. He sat down next to him. It doesn't matter. I didn't pass whether he was just being mean or not. Naruto told him sulkily. Now, that is something we can change. Mizuki smiled. Ow! Naruto was instantly suspicious. There's a second test just for people like you, who could have passed but didn't. What is it? Naruto was still suspicious. If there was a second, Tusen would have made him do that, one using the god's powers. He was not suited the basic test. That's it. Tusen mentioned a few days ago that one of the instructors was considering treason. It must be Mizuki. What to do? If I could trap him and call Tusen, he smiled up at Mizuki. Then I will both pass, and Konoha will be safe. 0 Naruto waited outside the Hokage building. His hinge was better than most, since people did not expect to see anything or smell anything. They didn't, and his wasn't limited just to him. He was to all intents invisible. He glanced at his watch. 11 to 6. Mizuki said the guard changes at 10 to 6. Sure enough, 2 more ANBU appeared, hidden behind one of the pillars, and as a civilian Naruto admired their skill. There was only a fraction of a second when a civilian walked by, when he flickered and the other ENBU took his place. Now that the guard had changed, he didn't need to worry about someone having noticed the shimmering of the air when he hid, followed by the air being displaced as he entered. So far, so good. Now the scroll Mizuki said it was in the safe. I wonder if I should actually take it. As he entered the room, he felt the wind move around him. Take the scroll, Naruto. Mizuki-san is watching. Tusen, I should have guessed. Still, he isn't stopping me. Naruto slipped in. Mizuki had said part of the test was figuring out how to open the safe. Too easy. It's a simple lock, and the chakra detection unit has been turned off. Arigato, Tusen. He placed his ear to the lock and twisted until he heard the tumblers click into place. It reminded him of the time that old lady with the cat had come to Konoha after she had her guards remove him from the Hokage building for trying to talk with the Hokage. She woke up with only one earring, and I managed to live of those necklaces for a week. He took the scroll and left. 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 Kind of. She stopped when she felt the air move. Otasama is always worried I would be attacked if I left the compound by myself. She formed the ram seal. Byakugan, she called. No one around. Wait. That was Naruto's signature running towards the forest. He couldn't have forgotten, could he? No. With that scroll, he must be taking another test, she thought, remembering how unhappy Naruto had been coming out from the exam room. Well, the least I can do is be there when he passes. With that thought in mind, she chased after his chakra signature. 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000Now he only needed to learn a technique from the scroll in case someone else turned up first. All right, let's see if there's anything I can actually learn in here. He opened the scroll. Instead of a list of techniques, there was a message. Naruto, Mizuki is a traitor. You may deal with him as such. Here is a basic attack technique. It was one of the first I learned, as well as several variations on it. A kaken. The first technique he saw when he looked down the scroll was the Kaze Yaiba. 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 She had become good at hiding over the last few years. After all, it was hardly befitting for a Hyuga heiress to be seen looking for someone like Naruto. Her father would have 50 fits. Naruto-san, well done. I must congratulate you on managing to steal the scroll. Now hand it to me, Mizuki said, standing on the branch almost directly above her. No, trate. He laughed at Mizuki's surprise. What? You thought I bought your story about a second test? Tusan would have made me do that one instead, no matter the difficulty. Mizuki thought fast. OS and asterisk T, I need to throw him off balance and kill him quickly before his father finds me. Yes, that should do it. Do you know why the village hates you, Naruto? He didn't wait for a reply. They call you demon for a reason. You, he paused for effect, are the Kyuubi. Hinata's eyes widened at the news. No, that's not possible. He saved me. Your point, Naruto asked stiffly. Oh, and her name's not Kyuubi. It's Kokoro. He smiled. Okay, that's enough annoying him. Let's see what this technique can do. He waited for Mizuki to throw the shuriken before concentrating. Wind bullet. As expected, the wind condensed. What he didn't count on was it cut straight through the shuriken, not slowing at all. Naruto! Hinata screamed, running at him. His eyes widened in shock of seeing Hinata. Then he gasped in horror as she tripped, but the wind picked her up and propelled her at Naruto. Faster than the shuriken. She thought she heard someone say, "Go save my son." But the wind couldn't talk. Could it? Okay, Naruto, why don't you go to the Hokage now? He has your Hittite, and you need to explain to your girlfriend why you said you were the Kyuubi. Akaken said, raising an eyebrow at the particularly compromising position they had landed in. No, I will deal with him. Naruto, while Hinata saved your life and our style works particularly well against ninja, you are too tired. Remember, this taxes your spirit as well as your body. On top of this, you no longer have the element of surprise. He's a chunin for a reason. This is not a fight you can win. Go, he commanded. Mizuki, it's time to die, he roared as Naruto carried the now unconscious Hinata back to the tower bridal style. Before Mizuki could move, Akaken was right in front of him. Now, since you have potentially ruined my son's friendship. Akuba, want to play? When don't I? He grinned, as he came out of the ether and tore into Mizuki's mind. So now you know what I am, Naruto said, as Hinata woke up. They were in an antechamber to the Hokage's office. There were two others in the room, but both were keeping their distance and could not hear what they were saying. Hinata was lying on a bench with Naruto sitting on the floor in front of her. Mizuki's screams had stopped an hour ago. Naruto was hoping that was because the ANBU had found him. No, Naruto, you're not a monster. You're a hero. You saved my life, Hinata said fondly. No, Naruto said quietly. I would have died if you hadn't been there tonight. The corner of his lips curled up. My hero, Hinata giggled. You know you're still invited for dinner. She looks so cute when she does that. No, Naruto, you're just going to hurt yourself, he thought bitterly. I'd love to. She smiled at him. She seemed to glow in front of him like the angels from Akakin stories. Then I guess you should come home, intruded a new voice. To-san, what happened to Mizuki? Naruto asked. Sure, Mizuki might have wanted to kill him, but what Akakin could do, he did not even think about. I led the ANBU to where I left him, he answered smoothly. Or what was left of him? You know, normally when you invite a friend round for dinner, you should tell me. Naruto scowled. Now, I think the Hokage wants a word. Naruto. Everyone turned to look at the Hokage. He smiled. In recognition of your efforts on behalf of Konoha, I have decided to make you a genin of Konoha as well as pay for a high C rank. Congratulations. Naruto just stared at the Hittite before breaking out in a grin and hugged the nearest person to him and swinging her around. Unfortunately, that was Hinata. 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. Naruto-kun, where is your house? Asked Hinata as they passed the outer limit of the village. About 3 miles southeast. He heard a laugh as Akakin saw Hinata's surprise. But I guess we can't make our guest run that. See you at home, Sochi. He smirked as he disappeared with Hinata. Before he faded completely, he said, I'll make dinner tonight. To-san, Naruto screamed furiously. 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. Akakin laughed as he heard Naruto's yell from the house. Shikio Tintasa, Hinata began in what sounded slightly reproachful, if hesitant, tones. Don't call me that. Not until you know what it means. All mirth had dropped from his face. Hinata, and I mean no offense in dropping the suffixes. They give me a headache remembering them all. As you have probably realized, me and Naruto are different. He watched as Hinata nodded. I brought you here because I know how you feel about Naruto. How? You're not exactly good at hiding it. He smiled briefly. I don't mind. You are a ninja now. You could die at any time. You should be happy in what time you have. Hinata chewed her lip nervously. Some of what I am about to tell you, Naruto knows, some he doesn't. The only thing I want him to think is that I told you I am from a different dimension. The Hyuga clan have some documentation of dimensions in their seal library. Akakin took a deep breath. For now, all you need to know is the origin of my names, and that both mine and Naruto's powers are different. They use pure spirit, bonded with the elemental energy of the gods, either light or dark. The power Naruto and I use is light. Now I will begin with our family name. Once you understand what you're saying, you may choose what to call us. Shikio Tenshi, Death's Angel. Where I come from, the term angel is given to either a founder of a new branch of magic or one of the ruling council. I am both. The name Shikio Tenshi refers to me being the first master of death magic, something Naruto does not know. Not even my subordinates would dare call me Shikio Tenshi-sama, though the term sama, where I come from, means something a lot more than simple respect. It is an expression of devotion, of worship. Someone who worships the death angel worships Lord Death, and while he is a light god, he is not to be worshipped. Hinata gasped. T&I, Yes, don't worry. You are not to know. Your father will likely ask you about tonight. You are welcome to call me a Kaken. My title, however, would be Ekitenshi, no suffix. The rank is equal to your Hokage. The council is made of the Ekitenshi, Kaizo Tenshi, and the Ninin Tenshi. Any situation is split into either war, economy, or people. The angel in control had the final decision if it fell in his domain, with the other two as advisors. He smiled at her. Now, is there anything you want to know? 00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 for now, let's eat, he said, glaring at Akakin. Maybe, but for now, let's eat. He smiled, and with a little concentration, Naruto's breathing became more even. Akakin led them into the kitchen. It had changed since Naruto had been in there last. Akakin winked at him. The walls were now a pure white and shone like polished marble. The table was circular and made of a blue marble, which shone in different patterns in the light. Akakin raised his arms and concentrated. Hinata, I don't know what kind of food is normal here, but this is one of my favorite delicacies. My wife made it for me once when we were in the desert. As he had been talking, the table had been populated with large silver plates. In the center was what looked like a large shark, but it was the color of the night. It's called a night shark. The shark had a rich taste and was delicately spiced to bring out what tasted like apples, but with a colder feel to it that set teeth on edge before flaring up to burn Naruto and Hinata's tongues. Their eyes widened in surprise and shock, and they started coughing. Akakin smirked and offered then some chilled champagne. Hinata blushed furiously, understanding what the champagne was meant for. Naruto was just glad it was cold. It's a touch spicy, Akakin said, straight-faced. 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 For some reason, Akakin had insisted that Naruto walk Hinata home. They were just approaching the Hyuga mansion when Hinata stopped him. Naruto-kun, Hinata stuttered. I wanted to say TT that I really enjoyed tonight. Can WWE do it again sometime? She finally managed to get the words out. Sure, Naruto said, smiling a rare, true Naruto smile. Akakin was great, but he wanted Naruto to be independent and try to keep some distance from them. If she wants to be with me, maybe the villagers will leave her alone. The Hyuga have always been ninja, and Hokage-sama said, ninja look out for their own. Hinata dimpled at him. He loved that smile. He tilted his head to one side. Hinata looked up into his eyes, silently asking what he was thinking. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 Gummy, he is dense, and she's way too shy, still standing like that. Naruto and Hinata were standing facing each other. Hinata was standing with her lips upturned, looking into Naruto's eyes. Naruto was standing similarly, but looking down into Hinata's. One push, that's all it would take, whoops. He grinned mischievously before vanishing. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 she thought, before giving in guiltily and letting it push her into Naruto's lips. She felt him tense up. Aichi doesn't like me, she thought, crushed. She started to pull away when Naruto pressed his own lips against her. So be it. She loves me, he thought. Yes, Hinata screamed in her head. He loves me, he loves me, he loves me. She was in heaven. I love you, Naruto-kun, she whispered. Me too, my Heim, he whispered back, pulling her into a tight hug. Then the moment was spoiled when they heard footsteps from the compound. I must go now, Nurkin, if Otis-sama found out like this. Hinata said, torn. She didn't want to go, but if her father found out, he would stop them seeing each other ever again. Go, my Hinaheim. I'll see you tomorrow. Reluctantly, he let her go. Tusan. Naruto ran into the house, screaming. He came to an abrupt halt, panting, his chest on fire. His eyes focused. There was a note on the table. Sochi, I regret that I am going to have to leave so soon. I trust you had a pleasant walk. At this point, Naruto could practically see his father's smirk. How the hell did he know that? Naruto thought, before continuing with the letter. Because you're very inattentive. Anyway, enough teasing. I have left to do a favor for your Hokage. I should be back in about a week and 4 days. You are welcome to invite Hinata over, but separate bedrooms would be a good idea, at least until her father knows. Akakin. As he read the end of the letter, Naruto blushed furiously before thinking back. Wait, how did he know I was going to think that then? He mused before glancing back at the letter. At the bottom, in writing so small he had missed it the first time, was, P.S. I know everything. You should know that by now. Naruto stared at the letter in shock for a moment, before backing off and hiding from the magic letter in the kitchen. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000The mist was so thick that their swirling outlines were all she could see. I'm lost. Can you let me in? Now that she was closer to the guard station, she could see that the gates were already open, but the shadow cast by the building behind it made it appear shut in the mist. All right, but first you need to sign this. Whereas in other villages a guard may have been distracted by her particularly short skirt and what could only be described as a piece of cloth the Kirinine wore infrared goggles, rendering her as little more than a humanoid red shape. It simply swears that you accept any and all responsibility for your actions, and that whilst you are in the village, you will accept our judgment whether you deem it fair or not. It is your responsibility to understand the laws. Ignorance is not an excuse. She nodded and signed, slightly dazed by the amount of information they had given her before gliding into the village. Poor girl. The guard sighed. What's the bet she'll last 10 minutes? The other guard asked, sniggering, once she was out of hearing range. The first guard looked at him in mock horror, before giving up and sniggering. Sandame in that skirt. She'll be lucky if she manages a minute. 00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 a puppy asleep on his head. Hinata sighed. Since last night, she had gained a good deal of confidence. Kiba-san, in case you haven't noticed, my face is not on my chest, she replied icily. She smiled slightly as Kiba quickly looked down in a vain attempt to hide from the pummeling all the girls in the class were about to give him. She sighed and took a seat by the window. Mind if I join you? Came a voice from the window. Hinata gave a small eep, involuntarily before noticing it was her Naruto. Of course, her voice dried up the way it always used to, and she tried again, course Naruto. He smiled and slipped in the window at the same time as Sakura and Ino ran in, each yelling at each other and fighting over who got to sit next to Sasuke. You know, after 5 years, you would have thought they'd have realized that Sasuke-san has two sides, Naruto whispered to Hinata, making her giggle. Naruto-kun, I think that we should. She paused awkwardly, not knowing how to phrase it without hurting him. Not let anyone else know before we tell our two-san. Naruto looked down and sighed. He'd been expecting something like this. Yeah, I guess two-san said something similar. Oh, what did he say? Naruto looked around for some escape to the question. Fortunately, that escape arrived in the form of Irika. "All right, who's not here?" he shouted. There were some faint giggles. "Now, everyone, sit down and shut up," he yelled, his head inflated to the size of a hot air balloon. "Thank you, and congratulations to everyone here. You are now ready to be genin of Konoha, as proven by your Itai. I will now read out the teams. They've been decided by Hokage-sama, so if anyone has any complaints, they should see him. Team 1. I hope we're on the same team, Haim," Naruto whispered in Hinata's ear. Hinata blushed. "Naruto, not here. Someone will hear." "Don't worry. The amount of noise Irika Sensei makes, I could scream it and nobody would hear." Team 7 Inuzuka Kiba, Uchiha Sasuke, and Sakura Haruno. Your Jounin Sensei will be Hatake Kakashi." Naruto snickered. "What?" Hinata asked. "I read up on some of the senseis before I came. Kakashi-san is notorious for being both a pervert and at least 3 hours late for everything." "Ah, he'd get on well with Kiba then." Naruto was about to ask why when Team 8 Aburame Shino, Shikio Tenchi Naruto, and Hyuga Hinata. Your Jounin Sensei will be Inuzuka Tsum. "What do you know about her, Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked Naruto. "She's the head of the Inuzuka clan. Other than that, I didn't bother to look her up. This will be the first time since the Sannin were trained that a clan head has taken on a squad," he exclaimed excitedly. It was only after the last of the teams had been called that anyone noticed Naruto was both in the room and had been mentioned in the listing. 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000She had been tall with the last women to come out of the Mizuki's office, fuming. She had been tall with a slightly gaunt face and high cheekbones. Nothing like the lady before her. Obviously, the Mizuki isn't picky, she thought. "Koijini-san, the Mizuki will see you now." The secretary looked over her curvaceous figure with something approaching pity. She nodded and entered the Mizuki's office. "Koijini-chan," came the exclamation of the old man on the other side of the desk, which, unlike the Hokage's, was devoid of any paperwork or anything else for that matter. "How can I help you?" Also unlike the Hokage, his eyes were certainly not on her eyes. "My wagon was attacked by bandits and my..." She started to cry. The Mizuki got up and walked over to her. Shush. It's all right. I'll send some ninja after them. You have my word. They will be dealt with." With a flick of his fingers, he dismissed the ENBU. She had no chakra, so he was safe. But what about payment?" She looked up at him, her eyes shiny from tears. "Please, I don't have much money, but I'd do anything. Just get them." "Anything?" He raised an eyebrow as he began to lift her shirt up, and she let him. "In that case, I think we can come to some arrangement." 00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000ɔ bearing her fangs into a feral smile. Her cheek marks matched those of her son Kiba. However, her partner was large and black, completely unlike Akamaru. They walked to the swing under a tree out in the front. "So, tell me about yourselves," Tsum commanded. She had the presence of a person who was the best at what she did and knew it. "I'll go first. My name is Inuzuka Tsum, clan head of the Inuzuka. My likes are my pups, Kuramaru, and the puppies. My dislikes are those who dislike dogs, paperwork, and traitors. The only dream I have that has not happened yet is to see all my pups become strong members of Konoha. Now you, Aburame." "My name is Aburame Shino. My likes are bugs. My dislikes are those who harm bugs without justifiable cause. My dream for the future is to breed a better strain of Kikai." "All right, you, Hyuga," Tsum barked. "Typical. The team looks like a tracking team, except..." "My name is Hyuga Hinata. My likes are..." Her eyes flicked to Naruto and back. It would have gone unnoticed, unless you were looking into her eyes. Unfortunately, that was precisely what Sum was doing. My sister, my cousin Niji, in training. My dislikes are being weak, and those who judge people without knowing them. My dreams for the future are to marry a certain someone and to fix my clan. Some nodded her approval. Interesting. I wonder if this certain someone knows yet. She wouldn't let her interest show on the outside. Looking bored, she commanded. You now, Shikio Tenchi. Oh, Oliace, don't call me that. It's my name only for convenience. Call me Naruto. My likes are. His eyes flickered to Hinata and back. Training, learning more of my father's home and my friends. My dislikes are those who judge others without first knowing them, and those who label others as weak. My dreams for the future are to master my father's style and to marry a certain someone. My name is Koromaru, came a gruff voice to Tsum's right. My likes are my alpha bones and the pups. My dislikes are those who harm the pack. I do not dream. Now that we know each other better, come to training ground 8 at noon tomorrow. Don't be late or the puppies get a few new bones to play with. Tsum commanded before leaving Koromaru at her heels. 0 The Mizukage had by now completely removed his shirt before a completely naked Koijini. She placed a hand on his chest. Wait, I just want to say one thing before you do this. He grunted crossly. What's that? May Mother Earth grant you a heart of stone. His horrified expression more than made up for her apparent lack of emotion. Before his expression could change, it froze as large, jagged chunks of rock erupted from his body, tearing him apart in seconds. Blood splattered the floor just before he hit it. Dead. She quickly dropped to her knees and picked up the chakra capsule Sarutobi had given her. Clothes reappeared on her body, in the fashion of an IDNBU. This was why the assassination had taken so long to prepare. She had even matched the shinobi registration to Iwa's top assassin. Throwing the capsule on the floor, she felt the chakra burst. She didn't have to worry about them checking whose chakra it was. An assassin's chakra signature was one of the most closely guarded secrets of any village. After all, what was the point in masks if your chakra signature was recognized? Hey, what's Dash? The Chunin's eyes widened and he swallowed as he saw the Mizukage dead. Koijini winked at him before replacing her mask and leaping out the window. Ha, nice going. You started a war and all it took was stripping for an old coot. Why didn't you try that on me? Akuba said in her mind. Because you would have had me raped by several hundred dogs. We didn't call them sons of mutts for no reason, you know. Akakin thought back. Besides, we were trying to end the war with you, not start it. She is beautiful, Naruto thought as he crouched in the bushes, taking in the sight of her lean muscle, not an ounce of fat on her. She was so graceful. It made his heart ache to do what he had to. He drew an arrow. Akakin had taken supplies for a week, which made sense since he was imitating Kunoichi for at least that long. So he wouldn't be able to simply create food or go without it for too long. He was always very particular about the details of a disguise. The doe in front of him dipped her head. He fired the bow. Whilst he could have managed the kill with a kunai, it was easier with an arrow not to damage the meat, and he could manage it from further away. Snap! A twig broke behind him. He had another arrow knocked and drawn in less than a second. He pointed it straight at the sound while spinning round to face the intruder. Eat! A small voice came from the other end of the arrow. Naruto relaxed. Hinata, what are you doing here? He returned the arrow to the quiver and unstrung the bow. It had been a present from his father, and the string faded into the wood, and the bow itself became a quarterstaff. He entered the clearing and gathered some magic in his hand. We're a team, right? I thought we should get to know each other better. Or at least, that's what I told Otasama. She smiled slightly, putting a slight stress on the Sama part. Kami, I should have told Naruto I loved him sooner. And not just because I could never have disrespected Otisama like that before, she thought, looking at the bow and just trying to imagine the kind of strength you would need to string it. Beneath his palm, there was a brief flash of light which encompassed the entire deer before disappearing with it. What? Naruto smiled. Prepared spell. 2 cents set it up so I wouldn't have to drag a kill home. He walked towards her. Now then, he leaned towards her. Shall we get to know each other? He grinned softly as she leaned in to kiss him. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 Naruto was smiling as he met up with the others. He had been training long into the night after Hinata left, and had finally mastered his Kaze Yaiba to the point where he felt comfortable using it in combat. He had changed his outfit as well. He now wore a pair of loose 3/4 length trousers with a tight mesh shirt and a sky blue jumper with a green swirl on the back. He had removed the arms from his jumper and wore a pair of tighter-fitting arm warmers with a toughened leather area on the inside of each wrist. He had also taken to carrying his staff strapped to his back. Hopefully, it would all make him look rugged, daring, and outrageously handsome. And anyone who's seen Princess Mononoke think of what Ashitaka wears under his shirt. Hey, Hinata-chan, Naruto called out. Aburame-san. He smiled as he bounded towards them. Naruto-san, came Shino's curt reply. Ohio, Naruto-kun, Hinata said. Her face had visibly brightened when Naruto came up the Aburame compound. Being near the Hyuga compound, they had decided to walk together. Whilst a nice clan, the Aburame were not the most stimulating conversation holders. Shino was no exception. Good. You're all here early, a voice barked from the woods. Surprised, the 3 genin turned to look. There, shadowed in the trees, stood Tsum Inuzuka. Now we can begin your genin test. Naruto's eyes widened with surprise. Test? Yes, test. Her tone brooked no argument. And close your mouth. Kuramaru doesn't like fish, but those puppies will try anything if you cut it up small enough. Naruto shut his mouth. The others wisely decided not to question their sensei. Now, your first test is to find Kuramaru. The genin now noticed that her partner was not with her. Hajime. They ran off into the forest, each realizing that if they were going to find Kuramaru, they would need to work together. That much seemed obvious to them. Naruto had been trained by his father, who being in a war firmly believed a platoon to be more effective than a single man, no matter how powerful. Shino's hive-like mind had drilled teamwork into him from birth, whilst Hinata recalled her father's stories of his teammates. Plans? Naruto asked, dropping into a position between them, his mind switching to what his father had termed conflict mode. There was an objective to be accomplished. It had to be completed. No room for other thoughts which could distract him at a crucial moment. Hinata, your Byakugan will help us locate him, Shino stated. Hinata nodded. Naruto thought for a moment. Shino, can you sense your bugs when they are outside your body? Yes, the females. Right, Hinata. Help guide Shino's bugs to Kuramaru. Try not to alert him to their presence. They'll help us if there's another stage and attract him as he's unlikely to stay still. We should also be prepared for techniques. He can speak and has a chakra system. As Sensei's partner, he may have picked up some tricks for if they're separated. Naruto spoke with authority, easily falling into the leadership role, and the others led him. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 This had begun to grate on him, but just as they approached, he seemed to sense them and run. This had begun to grate on their nerves. Naruto growled as he removed the quarterstaff from his back. Naruto, you're not going to shoot him, are you? Hinata said, shocked. Dogs have good hearing, Hinata-chan, was all he said as he called the string from the wood. Just tell me when we get close. I won't aim for him, but the surprise may make him run where we want. When we reach him, you circle round to his side." She bit her lip and nodded. They found Kuramaru again in the clearing. Hinata went to the right. Naruto aimed high up, and after about 10 seconds, he fired the arrow so that it came down centimeters from his snout. He backed off and began to turn away from Hinata in surprise when Naruto fired a second arrow straight to where he had been turning. He recoiled before running off in the only direction he had left, straight past Hinata as she dived, taking him down. He was caught. There was no escaping this time. "Well done. I thought you'd never figure out that you actually had to fight to catch him. However, Hinata, if that had been any other dog, you would be missing a face right now." She sighed. "But I can't blame you for that. Hayashi-san was never great with animals and probably neglected to teach you their dangers. Nonetheless, you all pass." She smiled at them and melted from her Iron Lady routine. "Well done, pups." 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 The mission was a success. Your spies should send word of the war within the next week, Akakin told the Hokage. "And you weren't recognized?" Hamura asked. Akakin raised an eyebrow. "Hamura-san, I have not been seen since I came to the village. How could I possibly be recognized? Besides, using this body might have attracted attention at a later date." His voice changed, along with his body. In his place, now, stood a small woman. She looked about 18 with long legs, and her miniskirt was set on an angle, one side dropping down below her hip, the other drawn up, so that it ended only 2 or 3 inches below her hip. She was wearing a shirt which seemed to be made of a single strip of cloth, tied so loosely it threatened to fall off with every breath she took. The council's eyes widened at the sudden change. Even Sarutobi seemed slightly taken aback. "But how did you get past the guards?" She had moved before they had even noticed. "Well, they're not great at telling truth from lie when it comes to civilians. Besides, this body is firm enough, isn't it, council member?" she asked from one of the civilian council members' lap with one arm around his neck. He was trying desperately to look anywhere but down and remember that this was actually a guy, no matter what his body was telling him. He blushed and stuttered. She giggled. "Akakin, stop incapacitating my council members," Sarutobi called, amused. "Does that mean I can incapacitate you, Hokage-san?" she asked before giggling at his expression. When she had stopped, she changed back into Akakin. "The escape was easy. Nobody saw me leave IWA. They were too interested in an accidental rock slide on the other side of the village." He grinned, and it was an eerie echo of his female persona. "Then I came straight here. Now, I'm going to take my leave of you." He looked at each of them. "Ladies, gentlemen," he looked at Hamura. "Dunce." The entire council looked at Hamura and noticed that he was indeed wearing a large conical hat with dunce written on it. When did he do that? Was the question all of them were thinking. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 Normally, he would be out to greet me by now, he thought as he walked into the living room. Oh, that'll be why he didn't say hi. On the sofa, Naruto and Hinata were lying next to each other, kissing each other. They were so engrossed in each other, they didn't notice him enter. So he sat down on the chair opposite and summoned a book with some of his favorite memories into his hands, and settled down to read. MH, Hinata murmured when she noticed they weren't alone anymore. Unfortunately, she was too involved in Naruto's mouth to make it intelligible. "Don't mind me, I just got to my favorite part," Akakin said mildly. "San, I thought I heard something come in," Naruto said, sitting up. "Oh, we were just, Naruto blushed along with Hinata. "I don't mind. You're ninja now. You will be asked to place your lives on the line for your job." You should make the most of what you have whilst you have it. As he said it, he looked at the picture on the table. Now, Naruto, we have the small matter of your graduation present. He smiled and led them outside. Hinata, what time are you expected home? He thinks that Naruto is taking me out for dinner tonight, back by 11. You told him? Not exactly. Akakin sighed. He thinks it's a team thing? You can't hide forever, Hinata. They reached a clearing where the trees had been cut in a perfect circle, as well as having a lot of slash marks. Impressive. Your staff with the Kaze Yaiba? Akakin asked. Naruto nodded. Now I want you to practice the Kaziken. This time, use some wind magic in your eyes. Don't ask what it'll feel like. You'll know when you do it right. Hinata, come walk with me for a moment. All right. They walked away from the clearing. Hinata, I wanted to ask, how far do you see you and Naruto going together? Taken aback, Hinata stammered. All the way he saved my life. I couldn't bear to not be a part of his. Akakin smiled softly. All right. In that case, I guess I should offer to teach you the Mizuken. What? You want to become a part of our family and change yours, correct? Well, I can teach you the magic. You may need to prove to Hayashi that just because a masculine water style doesn't work for you, it doesn't mean that you are weak. You also have a slight earth affinity, so I guess it's me being kind of selfish, but I want to train you. The last person to have the same affinities as you died before he could finish working. He would have been the first wielder of mind magic. Hinata, you have the potential to become more powerful than anyone alive. Hayashi-san, Akakin said, stepping out of the shadows in Hayashi's study. May I have a word? Hayashi started, not having noticed him. Why, yes, I'm free. He cleared some space on his desk and closed some of the files. Take a seat. Thank you. Akakin pulled out a chair from the desk. It would be low to point out that you would have to stand at least a foot above Hayashi just to sit eye to eye with him. The study was decorated so that the only light was behind Hayashi's desk, and the wood paneling grew steadily lighter as it came closer to him. Akakin looked around and raised an eyebrow. You have realized by now that intimidation doesn't work, right? Hayashi looked around the study. It had been used for centuries, but it had been a long time since Hayashi had looked at it from Akakin's side. He smiled. Yes, I seem to recall that the last person who tried that was Fugako-san. I think I'm rather too busy to spend a month or two in hospital. Hayashi's brow furrowed. Come to think of it, there was only a month or two between that and the massacre. You didn't? No, and I didn't come here to exchange pleasantries. I came to ask about your daughter. Oh, what about her? Interesting. Hokage-sama did say that the contract was void without Akakin's approval. Is there already a betrothal contract for her? There is, technically. She was betrothed to Namake's Naruto. I say technically because since you adopted him, all contracts are void without your consent. May I ask why you wish to know? Despite being our heiress, she is one of our weaker members. She is not weak, merely different. I'll give my consent to the contract. He leant back, staring Hayashi down. Will you? Yes, on the condition that when she is married, she relinquishes the title heiress. At that moment, a servant entered, carrying a message to Hayashi. Akakin looked at him, then specifically at his forehead, his eyes flashing silver before returning to a deep, pensive blue. My apologies, Hayashi said after conversing shortly with the servant. My nephew Niji-kun has taken to training after dark in the hopes of avoiding my notice. I like to keep an eye on his progress. Not a problem. However, I must ask about that seal on your servant's forehead. The cage bird seal? Not many people notice that. It's a control seal. It stops the branch members attacking us and prevents children with only one Hyuga parent in the branch family. It also weakens them considerably, seems to reduce the spirit energy in the chakra, weakening it. You realize that since if the betrothal goes through, that is something Hinata will use over chakra and cannot have that seal. Yes, branch members tend to be weaker than the main branch. He sighed. I was afraid you would say that Hinata could not have a seal. The elders have a lot of power in this clan, mostly to stop a full-scale rebellion from the branch members. If we had to kill them all, we would be severely weakened, and that is what would certainly happen. The original creator of the caged bird seal only made it for the reasons I told you, and also branded the main branch with it. But his son did not want the main branch to be weaker than the side branch, and changed the seal to be able to cause pain or death, before destroying every copy of the seal's workings. Akakin started at that, before letting Hayashi continue. They are bitter old fools and use the power that was given to them to give the branch power and appeasement to rule over them. They will force the caged bird seal on her because they were branded with it themselves. The seal is very similar to some of the submission seals from my world. In fact, I'm starting to think there is a link between the two worlds. Yes, many techniques are similar. Anyway, the seal has a water base in the magic, probably because your style seems very like a masculine Mizukin. Water is Hinata's primary affinity. If I teach her to remove the seal, as well as leave you a copy of the workings, could you stop them branding her? Yes, I think I can manage that. You say that the Jukin is like your Mizukin. Could you help Hinata improve? No. However, I can teach her a style which uses the same principles as the Jukin, but suits her better. Very well. I would like to see this style. I can show you now if you want. That would be good. Allow me a moment to gather the elders. Of course, the main training hall. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 and Kakashi-san's team. I happen to know that Kakashi preaches about teamwork a lot, so expect the team to work together, some announced. So we will have to increase our team training. After missions, we'll meet back here to discuss tactics and strengths. Over lunch, then you may return to your respective clans. Aye, Sensei, Naruto, Hinata, and Shino chorused. She smiled. Good. Then let's begin. Hinata, you and Kuramaru will continue working on your Bikugan. Naruto, you and Shino will be working on fighting 2-on-1. 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 because of what I have heard from my son of your clans, Jukin, I have come to test the claims that it is the greatest taijutsu method. It struck me that the style is very male-oriented with very few of the female clan members achieving what you term proficiency with it. He changed, switching fluidly into the form of a young woman of about 18 dressed in a close-fitting jumper and three-quarter lengths. Because of its similarity to the Mizukin, that is what I will fight you with. Very well, Hayashi-sama. We give our consent to the fight. If he succeeds in defeating you, we will consider your proposal, the leading council member announced after some moments' deliberation. Elder San, in case it escape your notice, I'm not a man at the moment. She smiled sweetly. Kindly don't address me as one. Hayashi-san, shall we begin? She asked him with a taunting smirk. In answer, Hayashi slid into the Major Jukin stance. Why do I get the feeling that this won't be as easy as I thought it would be? 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 of the forest. The last time she had been training here, she'd managed to activate the Byakugan's first stage without the use of the Ram Seal. Amazing. Is this what Otu-sama sees whenever he activates his Byakugan? This time, rather than having to force her chakra through the first stage, she could see the major Tenketsu without it, simply by activating her Byakugan with the Ram Seal. Concentrate. A deep voice barked beside her. Gomen, Komaru-sensei, she whispered, sat down on a branch, and prepared the scented kunai Tsum had given her for this exercise. She had been surprised when Sum suggested this exercise to increase the range of her Byakugan. It was very different to the rooms in the complex, where you simply forced more chakra into your eyes until you could see the marks built into the wall. Although it would explain why Niji had improved so much when he started training with his team. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000. Hayashi was just beginning to show signs of tiring. Of course, it didn't help that she always seemed just out of range and that her body was so mobile. He began to growl with frustration. "What's wrong, Hayashi-san?" she asked. "Oh, you wanted to fight back." After saying this, she ducked under the next attack and used both hands to attack, one striking his neck, the other his solar plexus. Surprised at the change, Hayashi didn't dodge. Crumpling, winded, and clutching his throat, she grabbed the top of his shirt, taking his balance with her hips. She threw him. He flipped and landed on his back, slamming his head on the floor. Akakin simply walked over, placing a foot on his throat. Dead. She flicked her hair out of the tight bun and sauntered out. 00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000Again from the side with his bugs. Naruto caught her attention by attacking her with his staff, a strike to her right side followed by an attack to her left side with the other end. Some sighed. "No, now you have to charge me again. Keep one person close. Shino, if you don't involve yourself in taijutsu, you'll be unable to fight effectively when you must. Here is where you learn." Shino simply nodded, surprised that she had not mentioned what he had just noticed. If he had positioned his bugs behind her, Naruto could have stayed with her. He resolved to ask her more about taijutsu after the session was over. Whilst his clan had a taijutsu style, so few now practiced it with so many variations, Shino was unsure what would be most effective. 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 as soon as Sum entered her office. It had become dark out, and she had spent the past 5 hours teaching Shino what he would find most effective in taijutsu, so that he could find someone who practiced a suitable style. Startled, she reached for Kanai. "Who are you?" "Well, I guess we haven't really met before. I'm Akakin, Naruto's father." Now that he had stepped out of the shadows, she could see him clearly. He was striking. "I'll talk. However, I have little time, so please be swift. This paperwork doesn't sign itself, you know." "Too well. Actually, what I came to talk to you about may help give you more time to complete the paperwork. Since both Naruto and Hinata have begun to train in the use of my style, which is wholly different to the ninja way, I would like to join in some of your training sessions so that I can teach them more of what they need to know. I also have training which may benefit Shino as well." "How is your style different? I saw some of Naruto's techniques, but they simply look like advanced techniques to me." "My style uses purely the spirit component of chakra, which we then refine and filter through our soul to create what we call magic. I'm sure you can see the clash with ninja techniques here. Quite how do you propose to do this? There are no real requirements for you to teach them, other than my permission. I even heard a rumor that the Sannin had 4 teachers, Hokage-sama, and then some others who taught them their specialties whilst he caught up with his paperwork. I will teach 3 of the 5 lessons a week. If we alternate days, then you will both not run out of paperwork and be able to help them incorporate what I have taught them into an effective team." "Done. Now, if you will excuse me." He left. He would begin his training the next morning. $0.00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 All right, kids, you're going to have me every other day until whenever I decide to stop. Whilst I'm in charge, I am Cammy. Got it? Their new sensei had made quite an impression on entry. Then again, ripping up several trees with a simple shunshin and stepping out of the whirlwind without a hair out of place was enough to impress anybody. A Kaken sensei, what happened to some sensei? A slightly timid Hinata asked. She is drowning under an evil which cannot be named. If she doesn't survive, well, he let the sentence hang, somehow making it seem like a chilling threat and slightly lighthearted at the same time. Now, Naruto, a sudden wind picked up around him, blowing several leaves towards him. With just a look, he sliced the leaves into a dust almost too fine to see. You will be using your Kaze Yaiba to achieve this effect. I will test you at the end of the day. This is to make you concentrate on multiple tasks at the same time and will be useful in the third tier of the Kaziken. Hinata, you will be drawing moisture from the air and ground, like we were practicing last night. He created a ball of shimmering water about 4 meters in diameter. When you can make a ball this big in under 3 seconds, hold it above the trees, and I will give you your next task. Shino, you will be with me. We'll be practicing the way of my ninja. Before you ask, they are very different. My ninja are assassins and messengers trained purely for stealth. From the moment they're training into the moment of their death, they are never seen by any except their teammates and their superiors. This will suit your use of bugs and poor taijutsu skills. He turned to look at Hinata and Naruto. Well, don't you have training to do?